All right, everybody. This is once again one of our interviews with animators. Today we have Gene Hamm. Gene, do you want to maybe mention some of the work my students might have seen of yours?
Well, the stuff I worked in Hollywood, the very first job I had was on Lord of the Rings for Ralph Bakshi in 1978. That got
Hmm.
me in the union, and then I went over. You're kind of like migrant fruit pickers going around the different studios, and I was at first I was at Ruby and Spears. They're the guys that created Scooby Doo for Hanna Barbera, and they got their own studio. So I was working
Oh, okay.
Fang Face and Plastic Man and Rickety Rocket. Then I went to Hanna Barbera and worked at Smurfs and Super Friends. And
Okay. That would have been like late 70s, early 80s ish.
78 through 80.
Mm.
And then toward the end of the decade, I was doing a lot of music videos uh, in the 80s. And
For who? You don't mind.
a bunch of different people. One of them was Marshall Burrell, who was Milton Berle's nephew. I did a bunch of things for RATT, R-A-T-T.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I remember that.
Then I animated Michael Bolton, who's known for all these
Sure.
syrupy love
Love
songs.
songs.
He did one heavy metal album,
Oh, really?
which didn't go, and then he went back to what made money. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody's Crazy was the song I did. And then there was Howard Jones, I Like to Get to Know You Well. Uh, and then
These were to get on MTV, I'm assuming it being the 80s and all
yeah,
that.
yeah. And then the other thing, bigger thing I worked on was the title song for Big Trouble in Little China. Uh,
You worked on the title sequence?
the title music video of this title song.
Oh, the music video for it. Got
Yeah, so it was fun because I got to direct three directors that were in the movie.
it. So, one thing I always sort of ask, where does your love of animation come from? What gets you kind of into this area?
Well, I was just watching TV all the time,
Hmm.
uh, in our small town, we only got one channel at a time after it started building up. So I was growing. I didn't see any MGM cartoons or Tex Avery until I was an adult. So when I was a
Hmm.
kid, I saw Popeyes and
Right.
and, uh, and Warner Brothers, Bugs Bunny.
Hmm.
Then Hanna Barbera came along, and I was influenced by that. And
Okay.
the other thing that made me realize people did this for a living was there was a Woody Woodpecker show, and in the
Sure.
middle of the Woody Woodpecker show, they'd have a little 5 minute tour of the studio, and that got me interested in that. And uh, and then what really got me seeing there's a way down there was Dallas McKinnon, who was the voice of Gumby, and I didn't
Hmm.
really he didn't tell me that for years, but he moved to there was a TV show. He did voices for cartoons, and he also did live stuff. And he was on
Hmm.
the Daniel Boone TV show playing Cincinnatus the storekeeper. And he moved to Cannon Beach, Oregon, which is the next town over from Seaside. And he became my mentor. And in
Hmm.
1971, he brought me down with him to keep him awake on I-5 when he did a gig at Disney. And all the way down, he taught me how to do cartoon voices. And
Okay.
he took me to the Cartoonist Union, and
Hmm.
I met the head of the Cartoonist Union. Now it's called the Animation Guild. And they told me this is February, and they told me to come back in summer because all the jobs are in summer. There's nothing going on that time. And did I
Hmm.
come back? No, I get married, and
Okay.
so I come back 7 years later
Okay.
after she divorces me. And I thought,
Okay.
huh, if I'm going to be a failure, why be a failure in Oregon? I'll be a failure in Hollywood. So I went down there, and I was lucky enough to get a job at on Lord of the Rings in the second week I was there. And
Oh, nice.
so
So did you have a background with drawing? Like, did you go to art school or just had a
no,
passion for drawing
no.
growing up?
Well, I all I could afford was a couple of years of community college, uh,
Hmm.
and uh, and basically everything I learned in college and art school is absolutely useless down
Okay.
there because they basically teach you to be a starving artist. I had this one teacher in college who was a composition teacher, and it was an hour and a half class, and he give you the assignment, and then he'd be gone for an hour, God knows where, and he'd come back in the last half hour and give you a critique, and he'd look at your stuff and go, "Nah, you're doing it all wrong." Then he'd move on to the next guy. He wouldn't tell you what you did,
Right.
and I said, how do I fix it? What are the rules of composition? Well, it really can't be put into words. I'm paying you to put it into words.
Right. Right.
And I had a feeling that this guy didn't want to tell you how to do it, or you have his job next semester.
Sure.
But when I got down to Hollywood, uh, I still wasn't that good. I still didn't know
Okay.
how I was doing. And I got the job at Hannah Barbera, but they told me that you should take the class at night. So that I was taking classes at night at Hanna Barbera, and I
And
had
they're
the best
teaching you to
teacher.
draw like in their style, basically, I'm
Their
assuming.
style, but and also the traditional style.
Okay.
Because I had this one guy named Dave Tendler. He'd see his name on old Betty Boop cartoons and old Popeye cartoons.
Okay.
These guys would answer any question you had because they knew you weren't going to get their job for 40 years, so they were secure in giving you the knowledge. So that was
Sure.
the best school I could ever have.
So you're kind of learning on the job, so to speak.
I was, yeah.
Okay. So you were able to get gigs and then you were sort of reinforcing your skills through their.
Yeah,
Okay. Good to
learning
know.
how to do it right and do it quick, and
So, during your time, obviously worked on a lot of cartoons. My students may have seen on TV or some streaming service. What did you feel like you learned in this process? Like, did you feel like you got better at character animation? Did you feel like you kind of learned how to do storytelling or
all of that,
tunes or
basically
okay.
all of that. And when I moved out, I got a job. Dallas McKinnon came along again, and he was
Mhm.
working on Gumby when they brought it back when Eddie Murphy got it popular again from playing Gumby on Saturday Night Live. Uh, Gumby came back, and he got me on the TV series,
Okay.
and and I call myself the in-house freelancer there because everybody else was stuck. All the animators that's what they were doing all day, but I did a little of everything.
Mhm.
I built characters. I built sets. Uh, uh,
So just for my students who may never have seen this show, Gumby is a stop motion.
yeah,
So
yeah.
when he talks about building a character, he means like physically building the
Physically, you
character
mold this character. You put a
out of
wire frame
clay,
in it, and
yeah, and
and you
building a physical
you pour a
set.
mold, and yeah,
Right.
one move it at one frame at a time.
Yeah.
And but uh, basically, I got rid of my rent controlled apartment I had for 10 years in Hollywood to move up here. And
Okay.
the second day I was there, I was playing volleyball with the crew after school or after work, and I broke my rib in the volleyball game, and I was
This is
out.
in the area, you mean, or
No, this is in Sausalito. It was
oh,
where they
South
were
Korea.
shooting
Okay.
Gumby. It's just the other side of San Francisco, across the bridge. And so I broke my rib, and I'm out. I can't work.
Okay.
And I got myself up off the bed in pain. And here's the other thing. I damn near lost the job on the end of this third day. The very first gig, very first shot they gave me was a chicken flying through a window.
Okay.
They didn't give me like a dialogue scene or a walk scene to warm me up. They gave me the most complicated wire shot you can have, and it took me from Monday to Wednesday to finish it. And before you could shoot the each shot, you had to ping the wires so they'd vibrate so they wouldn't leave an image,
Okay.
and so it was a mother, a monster, and anyway, he said, "Yeah, you should have been done with that in one day." And I thought, "Oh God, now I'm going to lose the job." So, so I got myself out of bed, and they had a thing called they called it the pencil test system. They had this tabletop where you could do a little test on their little video camera, and so I started going in there, and it was right in this place where an L-shaped a hall here and a hall there. So it was really visible, so they could see I was working at it. And but I overheard a conversation that the sound reader had quit, and they were stuck. And I said, I can do that. So I get the job as sound reader. And no, that was the second thing. The first thing I got was they couldn't get the elephant. There's a mastodon that squirted water out of his trunk, and they couldn't do it. They tried real water, and it didn't look like right.
Okay.
And I remembered when I was in Big Brothers down in L.A. There was a guy that did the film. What's the little monkey? Curious George.
Oh, okay.
He did a stop motion film of Curious George, a little short. And there's a fireman adopts Curious George. And what they did, and the guy was showing how they did it. It was a wire and saran wrap around it. And when you give it a twist every frame, it looks like the twist that water gives.
Okay.
So they couldn't figure out how to do this mastodon. So well, let me try it. So I did a test, and I drilled a little hole in the trunk so I could stick a wire in there. And they liked the test, and I became the special effects animator.
Okay.
And so I was a special effects animator. Then I was building sets, and then Dallas comes along again, doing some more voices for Gumby, and he says Gene can do voices, and they had me do voices about half the films. So I called myself the in-house freelancer. I just made myself indispensable so they couldn't fire me.
Sure. So you're working on these, you're moving from studio to studio, you're working on various things. You mentioned Gumby, Plastic Man, Lord of the Rings, and that was pretty common at the time. I interviewed my friend Arnie, and he kind of did the same thing where he went from MGM, and then when that gig ended, he got a job, he worked for Disney or whatever sub
Yeah.
contractor was doing Tron at the time. And so it's like you're doing that, and so you're working for a bigger studio or a bigger, more bigger corporate entity. But then your more recent work, you're kind of doing your own thing, right?
Oh,
Uh,
let me throw
oh,
something
sorry.
else in there. But between that time, when I came up here, another thing I don't think I mentioned that I sent you an article, but one thing I didn't mention was did some video games too. I worked for
Okay.
Sega for the very first. Sega had always done stuff in Japan, and
Right.
I worked on the first thing they did in here. It was the Dick Tracy game.
And what did you do? You did like animation for the characters and the
Yeah, I animated all the villains in the Sega Dick Tracy game. You can see it the whole game on YouTube, and they also did a Jurassic Park game. But the thing about I recommend if any students uh, want to get into video games, you're a second class citizen because you're going to make the programmers the ones that make the money. If you know how to program and animate, then you're going to be all right. But you're a second class citizen, and the programmers will take your perfectly timed animation and fuck it all up just for spite, just to show you who's boss.
well, so it was the idea that you kind of sketched out like maybe some. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming you didn't program in the Dick Tracy. So is it like you're sort of drawing?
I'm animating. Oh, the other thing, that, it was they had their own proprietary software at that
Uh,
time on the Dick Tracy game, and everything had to fit into you're making sprites, and everything had
right,
to
right,
fit
right.
into this vertical. I'd animated all the villains. They wouldn't let me animate Dick Tracy. They had uh, uh, this guy from Japan was animating Dick Tracy, and all he did is took this game that they did, some war game they did, and put a trench coat and a hat on him and called it Dick Tracy, and it didn't look like Dick Tracy, but I did all the villains, but it was a vertical composition for the sprites. So
Right.
when they die, they couldn't lay flat. I had to figure out different ways of having them crumple, and that that was tough.
Sure. So you're kind of, you're. So it sounds like you're doing animation.
Oh, let me just say
Sure.
one thing, and that proprietary thing. I'm not lying to you. With that Sega machine, you had to animate pixel by pixel. You couldn't just draw. You had to.
Mm,
So I
I can
was
imagine
so glad I was getting paid by the hour on that one.
that. So you actually did animate digitally. I thought maybe you
Yeah,
would have
yeah,
done
yeah.
because I thought maybe you would have done and they would have translated it for you or something.
No, no.
Oh, okay, good to know. Um, so you do that, you're doing some side gig within animate, animating. So it's good to show my students that like, sometimes animation isn't always a Pixar movie or a
Oh
Disney
no.
movie. Sometimes it's animating for games. Like that's actually in the Bay Area probably the number one probably area you're probably going to get hired for animation since there's a lot of game studios, but not a lot
Yeah.
of animation studios per se, at least not on the higher level of things. Um, so I kind of want to talk about your own. You did your own feature length, right? You did Hell to Pay.
Uh-huh.
How can you talk a little bit about that process for my students?
Well, basically, uh, I wrote it as a script, and
Mm,
I briefly had an agent, and then she had decided she wanted to be get married and have kids, and got out of the business. But while she was there, I showed her a bunch of scripts, and she thought Hell to Pay was the most commercial. And
what year is this, by the way? You know, like
oh, this was in probably beginning of 2000s,
like 2005-ish,
something like that.
something like
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah, and so she said, make it as a graphic novel, and
Mhm.
because a lot of scripts now are being made from graphic novels. So I made it as a graphic novel, which is now
Okay.
for sale on Amazon, and um, but I did it a little differently because most books you open them like this. I I wanted to have all the pictures exactly uh, size of the screen. So if I ever
Okay.
wanted to make it into a movie, I'll have the layouts. And
So it was done in 4 by 3 at the time, probably,
yeah,
right?
kind
Before
of,
the
yeah,
cheap.
and
Okay.
yeah, 1920 by 1080 kind of
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
and and it opened like a calendar like that, so I could fit four to a page, and so then I took that and I made it into use each thing for a layout. I ran into one little problem because I briefly had a guy who was interested in distributing it when it was in the I had 27 minutes done of it, and I won a film festival as a work in progress of Hell to Pay in New York. And but the distributor told me that you had movies should be over 70 minutes long to make it in a theater. So if I'd done this thing just like the graphic novel, if you had timed it out, it would have been 52 minutes, and I had to figure out how can I stretch this out to 77 minutes without ruining the story, and I came up with various ways of doing that, and without ruining the story, which
okay.
I think it actually made it better. And
So when you worked on this, it was done in Adobe Anime. Did you do it all yourself or did you
yeah,
hire?
yeah, I did the whole thing myself, and
Okay.
I hired a couple of people to do voices. I did half the voices, and then the woman, she was a teacher I'd worked with. She did really good voices, and
Hmm.
I had another guy, another teacher I knew that he did some voices, so it wouldn't all sound like me.
Sure. And how long did that process, how long did animating a whole 77 minute?
That took 3 years, and uh, what made it possible was they had some automatic lip sync, which made it a lot easier because once you had a dozen mouths, then you could spit them out, and it's like 95 to 99% accurate, and then you'd go in there and tweak things get it
Mm.
right on, and that made that possible. Uh, my newest film, The Dream Hat, they came up with a new thing, a new tool that's pretty good. They call it modern rigging. It was they used to call it bones, but it's a way of putting bones in things. And so basically, you're doing a flat, but basically stop motion with your characters. And
Yeah, yeah. I've taught my students how to do that where it's like it's a sort of loose, yeah, bone system or
yeah, well,
to
you can do it well. You can do it with forward kinematics or reverse kinematics, or what they also call broken hierarchy. Uh, uh, when you combine the both.
So you mentioned you have a new film that you're working on or is complete
It's
or
complete, and now I'm sending it to film festivals and uh, and to distributors.
and how long did this movie take you?
It's 77 minutes too.
Okay.
So
So did it take about another 3 years
no,
or
that one, I'm getting faster. The tools are getting a little easier
uh-huh.
because basically having the bones in there is it's like having an assistant animator or
Right, right.
and so I just get really good poses, and then I can have I don't have to do all the in betweens myself. And
Okay.
that took 2 years. I think the next one I do will probably take about a year and a half. I think it's
Mhm.
getting better.
Sounds good. Um, so as you kind of have gone through various things in your career, both working for studios, like bigger studios like Hanna-Barbera. I mean, I consider Hanna-Barbera a bigger studio, especially in the 70s and 80s. Doing games for Sega, doing your own work now. How do you feel like how is doing your own work different than maybe working for a bigger studio like Hanna-Barbera
More
or
satisfying because
okay.
um, yeah, getting something out there that you did, then it's when you see something that's been in your head for a long time and seeing it actually out externally, that's a good feeling.
Mhm. You feel like you had more control over that,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
process. Okay.
Well, when you work in a studio, uh, my I think it was an Italian. I think it was this car designer. It was an Italian. I think he worked in England. He had something. He said a camel is a horse designed by a committee, and
Mhm.
so uh, you can have a great idea and start out, and then all the different things that has to go through at the end, they can ruin it. Uh,
Makes it lose
yeah,
it's what's the word? I don't want to say like appeal, but like yeah, it's kind of it loses its vision because it's too many. You can't have a vision if it's too many people, right?
yeah. Too many cooks, the old phrase.
Sure.
Or you can be at the end of the assembly line and have no creativity, uh, any input at all. That was the thing when I was a kid. I thought when he went to the studio, they're going to listen to everything. All I did, they don't want to hear that. You just shut
Right.
up and work. So
Yeah, I mean, I haven't worked in animation, but like, yeah, I mean, I used to be a web developer, and it's definitely like you're just there to do what they want because someone once described it as you are a crayon that they move around to get what they want, since they can't do it, but you can. So that's how, like, you think because you've gone to art school or whatever, years of this, that they're going to listen to your ideas, but at the end, it's kind of that's
yeah,
not always the case.
that's why it's good to do. Well, Hollywood's always been like that.
Sure.
You see some actor and they're in an MGM movie and they're a supporting actor, and then you'd see them starring in a Republic movie or a Monogram movie, a lower budget thing. So it's
Sure.
always been like that.
So one question I usually ask my people I interview, where do you think since you've been in the whole industry a long time, where where do you see animation going from 2025 on?
Oh well, everybody's scared about AI. I'm not scared about AI. I think it's going to get more independent. I think one thing
Mhm.
is we're in a little transition period right now because uh, I think I think that there's a little door came in. They let in a whole bunch of people in for streaming, and then I think the big people are going, Jesus Christ, dude, we're letting everybody in. We better shut off the hose here. So I think they're trying to get dominance, but I don't think they're going to get rid of
The
streaming.
dominance, you mean like the bigger studios like
Yeah, I think that
and
like
Disney and 20th Century Fox and that kind of
yeah, I
stuff.
think they're trying to because people weren't going to the theaters for a while, so I think they're
Right.
trying to get it back. I think the pandemic Well, the pandemic was good and bad for a couple things. I mean, I think we realized in this society all the stuff we didn't need. Well,
Sure.
when they talked about essential workers, all the essential workers weren't at the top; they were all at the bottom.
Right, right.
And so, but the AI, a lot of people are scared about AI. But the thing is, I've tried playing with AI, and a couple of things
Mhm.
I've wanted it to do. It'll be easier for me to just do it myself than try to
Yeah, I've kind
say
of
the
gotten
right
that,
words to AI to get it done.
not so much from animation, but yeah, a lot of times when people say, and maybe it'll be different when the technology improves, but at the moment it's like, if you want what it produces, then it's fast. But if you want something that's not exactly what it produces, by the time you reverse engineer it, it would have been probably easier to do it yourself, or you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. And a lot of times I find out that, like when I'm trying to get into 3D, by the time I can get something rendered in 3D, I could have drawn it. And I
Yeah,
did,
cool.
maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm just ignorant with the technology, but I tried, I put a drawing in this one AI program, and I had this profile of this character, and he had hair that went like this, and I said, side view, give me a front view. When he gives me a front view, he's got a comb over.
Right, right.
The hair didn't continue. So that's another thing where you're probably going to go ahead and fix. And the other thing about computers is a long time ago, when I worked at Living Books, uh, John Lasseter came over. I guess his kids were a fan of Living Books, and our boss was friends with him. And we got to talk to John Lasseter for a whole afternoon and get paid for it. And
Mhm.
this was just when he was starting. They were still working on the first Toy Story, and he was talking about how people think that they always ask him like when he goes to SIGGRAPH, what program did you do this with? Like if they had that program, suddenly they're going to be cranking out
Right, right.
something. And he said, no matter what program, I always have to go in there and fix it every frame by frame.
Sure.
Uh, but the other thing about technology I want to say is about people being scared of AI. This has happened before. There's always been
Sure.
some transition, like when Disney did 101 Dalmatians, they thought all the animators are going to be committing suicide trying to put all the spots on all these 101 Dalmatians. So they came up with a Xerox machine to and the Xerox machine put a whole bunch of inkers out of work, but it also brought in uh, television animation.
Sure.
And so every time there's something out, if you just ride the wave, see where the opportunities are, there's going to be there's going to be more and more stuff coming out. I think there's a lot more opportunity to people do their own stuff. And,
Sure.
and the other thing is the Hollywood model is this great big what they call the tent pole, and everything goes like this, But
Sure.
but if you look around the edges, if you can find a niche, uh, you don't have to make a killing. It doesn't have everything doesn't have to be a blockbuster. But you can make a living doing what you want the way you want with a uh, small fanatic audience.
Sure.
If you find your niche, because the cool thing about the internet, I'm an old fart, so I remember when uh, the biggest phrase in the '60s, you'd hear alienation was a big word. We didn't feel part of the world. And now with the internet, if you feel alienated, it's your own fault because whatever you're interested in, you might think I'm the only person interested in this thing. Look
Mm.
on the internet, and there's 10,000 websites interested in the same thing you're interested in. But
Right.
the percentage is like maybe 95 to 99% of them of those sites are audience, and there's 1 to 5% of the people producing the stuff that all these other people are seeing. So if you are interested in stuff, there's going to be some little niche group for that. So you can do what you want and eat.
All right. So, as we kind of wind down this interview, Do
Sorry to
you?
go on and
Oh,
on.
no, no, no. It's just, yeah, I just try to keep them to a certain length in general. But you've had a lot of great fun stories and some great information for my students. Do you have any kind of advice or for my students in general who might be interested in um, pursuing this as a career or even just as a sort of intense hobby, even if it's not a full career?
Well, one thing I would recommend is that make your own film,
Mm.
and you're going to find out what you're good at. People are going to tell you what you're good at. Maybe you can't do everything, but they're going to tell you what you're good at, and enter some film festivals. And the cool thing about film festivals is that maybe maybe you've got some wacky vision of something that you want to. I've never seen anything done like this before, so I'm going to go ahead and animate that. And so if you've made something that, uh, oh, here, don't try to do Mickey Mouse or something like that because they've seen enough Mickey Mouse. They want if you try to show something to Disney, they want to see a new character that they can exploit.
Right, right, right.
So anyway, see if you get something weird vision and win some festivals or something. A lot of times, ad agencies go and they'll look for something new because there's just about everything I've gotten into. They always want it to look like something else.
Sure.
Uh, but there's two categories where you can do brand new stuff: commercials and music videos.
Mm,
Commercials, you're going to make the product look cool.
right.
Music videos, nobody thinks the animator did it; they think the rock star did it. So you're going to make them
Sure,
look
yeah.
cool. So you can try new stuff and get paid for it. So
Okay. And how can my students, do you have anything to plug or socials or websites or anything you'd like to plug for my students?
take a look on Tubi for Hell to Pay,
Okay.
HELLTOUPEE, and it's about the world's first genetically engineered living toupee. And when the killer toupees escape from the lab, the only person who can save the world is a female local barber. And
Sure.
it's kind of an old Johnny Quest kind of style. It's got fake outtakes at the end where they're complaining about me, the director,
Nice.
and look for the Dream Hat, and also currently I'm working on putting together. I should have a website or something soon, or on YouTube, of teaching how to do some animation techniques that I've learned, uh, and how to get things out there and in festivals and stuff. All the processes I did.
Great. That would be really helpful. Well, we appreciate your time, and my students hopefully will check out, if they don't see some of your older animation, check
Yeah,
out
you can.
Play on
My
Tubi.
YouTube channel is Gene Ham.
Okay. I'll
There's
post that in my
Yeah,
my interview.
and I'm on Facebook if anybody wants to ask me any questions. I love answering questions.
Great. You're now up the 40-year high where you're not worried about them taking your job.
Yeah, yeah,
All
and
right.
I got about two or three more features in me that I want to get for I croak. So
Sure. All right. Well, we appreciate your time.
yeah, yeah. Well, let me know when you got it up there so I can take a look at it or something.
Sure.